live now. I've not pressed everything. Can we go back to the beginning?
Do we need to restart?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thankfully, I have someone monitoring.
That's all right. We got to do it by the book. So
Yes, please.
in that case, Jodie, do you want to kick us off with the election of chair again?
Thank you. Welcome to this licensing subcommittee. Before we start, we will elect a chair for the hearing. The councillors present today are Councillor Deighton, Councillor Grimston and Councillor Saffrey. Councillors, can I have a nomination for chair, please?
I would like to nominate Councillor Saffrey.
Thank you. Councillor Grimston?
And I would like to second Councillor Saffrey.
Thank you.
Thank you, colleagues. Firstly, can I welcome you all to the meeting? I'm going to start by introducing everyone and explaining how the meeting is going to run. Please note this meeting is being live streamed to YouTube and the recording of the meeting will be available online afterwards. I'm Councillor Glenn Saffrey and I will chair the meeting today. Also on the subcommittee are my colleagues Aga Dichton and Amanda Grimston. The officers present are the Council Solicitor Chinedu Njoku, the Licensing Officer Austin Young, and Sandra Hancock and Jodie Kloss from Democratic Services team. We're also joined by the applicant, Ms. Sorrel Chavda. Welcome, Sorrel. This covers everyone who's present at the virtual meeting. Please could I ask that everybody turns off their video as this enhances the functionality of the system. Also, could you please mute yourselves unless called on by me to speak. I'd also like to ask all participants to turn their mobile phones on to silent. If you wish to speak, please press the raise hand function in the bottom left of the screen and I will call on you at the appropriate moment. If for any reason the YouTube live stream stops mid-meeting, the meeting will be adjourned to give time for the link to be restored. For those listening in on YouTube, please check the comments for any updates. If any of the participants in the hearing lose their connection, we will also adjourn to allow them to reconnect. We will be following the standard protocol for licensing subcommittees which all participants should have received. This will ensure that all parties are able to say all that they wish to. Firstly, I need to ask my colleagues whether they have any interest to declaring this application for a new licence for 132 Ridge Lane.
No interest, Chair.
No interest. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, colleagues. I also confirm that I have no interest to declare. Austin, can I confirm we have everyone we're expecting on the call and that I can proceed with the hearing, please?
Yes, Chair.
Thank you. Could I confirm also whether there are any preliminary matters for us to consider before you outline the application to subcommittee?
Yes, Chair, there are some preliminary matters to consider. First, I would like to ask all members to confirm that they've received the additional documentation that was circulated prior to the hearing, which consists of 2 written submissions from objectors and information supplied by the applicant with regards to the type of articles that they wish to sell as part of their business.
Thank you. I received.
Thank you, Austin. Yes, I've received.
Thanks, Austin. Yes, I confirm I've received that too.
Can I please also ask Sorrel as the applicant to confirm that she has also received the written submission submitted by the objectors to be considered today?
Yes, I've received them all.
Thank you all. Another preliminary matter is that the objection at Appendix 4D was withdrawn prior to the hearing. Unfortunately, it was withdrawn after the report was published, so it was still included in the report, but I've since had written confirmation that that objection has been withdrawn, so that should not be considered today. Finally, I would also ask to note that this leaves 5 objections standing against the application. I've been notified by 4 parties that they are not going to be participating today. Unfortunately, I have had no reply from the 5th party. I remind members that hearings may continue in the absence of all parties, so applicants and objectors alike, but before proceeding, I think it's best to establish whether or not the committee are happy to proceed in the absence of all parties.
I'm happy to proceed in the circumstances, Austin.
Yes, so am I. Thank you, Austin.
Thank you, Austin. I'm happy.
Okay, Chair, I believe that covers all the preliminary matters.
Thanks, Austin. In that case, I'd now like to invite you as the licensing officer to present your report to the committee.
Thank you very much, Chair. So, good morning, all. Members are today asked to consider an application by Sorrel Chapter for a new premises licence for 132 Ridge Lane, Watford, to permit the sale of alcohol for consumption off of the premises. As covered in the introductions, Ms Chavda is representing herself here today. The table at paragraph 4.12, which can be found top of page 6 of the report, shows the hours that are requested by this application. As mentioned in the preliminary matters, 5 representations have been received against this application. All of the representations are from residents, with one of these being submitted by a residents' association for the local area. Those representations are included at Appendix 4 of the report, with each separate representation identified with the letters A through E. And these are on pages 33 through 41 of the report. 2 objectors contacted me in advance of the hearing with written submissions that they wish to have considered today. We've already had confirmation that members and the applicant have received those written submissions. It is noted that some of the representations concern the planning permission of the premises and the current use. As stated in paragraph 7.7, which can be found on page 7 of the report, members are reminded that the planning and licensing regimes are separate regimes, with functions carried out under different legislation and different policies. While this does mean that it is possible to have a license or planning permission granted without the other, should residents have any concerns over the use of the premises and whether planning permission should be required or not, then they would be advised to report this matter to planning enforcement for investigation. No representations were received from the responsible authorities, such as planning, which require consideration today, although I can advise that the applicant and police did agree to conditions that they would like to see on the licence. These conditions are included at paragraph 9.7, which is on page 11 of the report. It should be noted that one of the objectors did raise concerns over the police conditions and specifically queried the wording of these conditions, implying that they could be made more explicit and detailed. I can advise that I did ask the objector for suggested wording to replace these conditions, but unfortunately I received no response. Members are reminded that if they feel that attaching such conditions is appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives, they may either proceed with the conditions agreed with the police, or they may amend the wording of these conditions as they see fit. As the representations which have been received have been accepted as valid representations on the grounds of the licensing objectives, members are asked to consider these representations and to attach such weight to them as they see fit while considering the application before them. As stated at paragraph 10.2, which is on page 12 of the report, mediation was pursued in this case, as is quite often the case for licensing applications, although the objectors did not all take up the offer of mediation. And as can be seen from the representations, some wanted to exercise their right for their concerns to be heard before a subcommittee. Having considered all the evidence and representations put before them, it is for the licensing subcommittee to decide which of the actions available to them would be appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives in relation to this application. And as always, we would ask that the reasons for any decision should be given as part of the determination. That concludes my introduction, Chair.
Thank you, Austin, for that report. It is now for the subcommittee to ask any questions of you as licensing officer, then the applicant, and the legal officer will then have the opportunity to do so. So, councillors, do you have any questions for Austin? Please raise your hands if you wish to speak. I don't have any hands, so I'm just assuming that means Aga, Amanda, you don't have any questions. In that case, Ms. Chavda, do you have any questions for Austin?
I don't have any questions at the moment, no.
So that's fine. Chinedu, that's now your turn. Do you have any questions for Austin?
I have no questions, Chair.
Okay. In that case, Ms. Chavda, I would like to invite you to address the subcommittee as the applicant.
Okay. Hi, guys. So when I actually first filled the application out, I wasn't too sure about kind of what I would have to write. So I think that's why probably when you look at my application online now, or the application that you might have before you, it's obviously different to what I would intend to do now, having spoken to the police and been given their conditions, and also discussing everything with Austin. So I wasn't actually sure in terms of what I need to say at this point, but I don't know if it would be helpful for me to maybe go over how I'm going to go forward and promote the licensing objectives to make it a little bit clearer, because I think maybe in my application I wasn't clear enough.
That sounds reasonable to me. So
sorry.
That sounds reasonable to me. Yeah, that sounds.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to list how I would intend to promote all the 4 licensing objectives, and obviously starting with following the approved conditions that I've been given by the police, and also kind of responding a little bit to the objectives from the residents. So just to clarify that all orders would be dispatched to a bona fide address. I'd be advertising the age verification policy, and advise that before any sellers complete their ID, a UV or holographic photo ID may be required. Obviously operating the Challenge 25 policy. Only remote sales of alcohol will be taken as orders, so there won't be any stop or shop to the premises. And anyone that decides to pick up a kit would actually only be done so by a pre-arranged single time slot appointment only. They'd be advised to park in the driveway so that there's no traffic or parking issues along the road. There would be strictly no street parking outside the premises either. There would be no things such as like promotional discounts. All of the kits will be sold at one permitted price, and that would be for consumption off the premises again. All sales or pre-arranged sales would be approved and supplied by me, the DPS. And then in terms of the 4 licensing objectives, so to prevent crime and disorder, there will be no events or no consumption of alcohol on the premises. All sales will be documented and only sold to 18 plus with proof of ID if necessary, according to the age verification policy and Challenge 25. CCTV is going to be installed on the premises in the next couple of weeks. Obviously, again, following the conditions that have been set by the police with me. And just to give a bit of background about the kits, they'll be sold in, it's basically a deconstructed cocktail. So it would be mixed at home by the client. It's not a premises where I would be selling large quantities of alcohols, like litre bottles of spirits, etc. In reference to public safety, again, the age verification policy and checking of photo identification cards, no consumption of alcohol would be on the premises. The cocktail kits are almost an interactive kind of cocktail kit where they would be mixed at home. So that would reduce the concerns of the residents thinking that people might be drinking on site and then leaving litter and empty bottles down the road, etc. Clients will be parking in the driveway space. I'd have to stress that this is obviously online sales, so majority of them will be delivered via myself or a courier or posted out using Royal Mail service. But for the few that do wish to pick up, they would be parking in the driveway, so there would be no street cars blocking the pavements. And like I said, that majority will be posted out via a courier or delivery service to reduce the number of pickups. In reference to prevention of public nuisance, as I mentioned, the sales will be online remote sales. Every kit that is sold has to be pre-ordered because they are bespoke and obviously made up according to the client's needs. So as I mentioned before, no stop and shop. Again, I've mentioned before, so anyone picking up a kit would be doing so via a pre-arranged time slot appointment only, one client at a time, advised to park in the driveway and to come and go quietly. The pickup would take no longer than a couple of minutes. Again, alcohol would be for consumption off the premises as they need to be mixed at home. And my target audience is actually those who are in their mid-20s and young professional peoples who actually have an interest in cocktails. And then the last one, the protection of children from harm, again, operating the Challenge 25 policy with proof of identification if needed. All deliveries will be made to operate this policy as well. I would be giving courier training to the couriers that will be delivering and using Royal Mail tracked. So obviously no sale to anyone believed under the age of 25. And if they're unable to present their identification and prove their age, then the sale will not be sale will not be made, and a record would be taken of that. And like I said, the target market is actually kind of mid-20s, 30, as it's quite a high-end luxury product. And yeah, that's what I have in terms of promoting the licensing objectives. And I don't know if it would be relevant if I give some more information on the operating schedule, or
if you feel that's relevant to us making our decision, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I'll just touch on it briefly then. So obviously the operating schedule would be in compliance to the police conditions that have been given to me, and the timings that that are written on the report are in reference to the online sales. Pickups would not necessarily be from 9 till 8 p.m, but more from, say, midday to 6 or 7 p.m. to allow anyone who wanted to collect a kit after work to do so. But as I mentioned, you know, this is a residential property and it's one that I live at with my parents. So pickups will be at a kind of minimum because I don't really want anyone coming to my house unnecessarily. What else? So the cocktail kits are obviously, they're quite a high-end cocktail kit. They're inspired by science and nature, to be mixed at home off the premises by the client, mainly by online sales. Totally by online sales, mainly delivery via postal courier services and a rare occasion pickups. As you're probably aware, it says on my original application that I was going to be carrying out masterclasses, but having spoken to the police and Austin, I've decided to not do that, so they won't be going ahead anymore. And yeah, and that's it really.
Thanks, Sorrel.
Thank you.
Okay, we now turn to questions for you as the applicant.
Sure.
I'm going to start with the subcommittee, so my colleagues. Councillors, do you have any questions for Sorrel?
Yes, Chair, I have my hand up.
Yeah, go for it.
Hello, Sorrel.
Hi.
My concern is not necessarily the sending out of the products.
Mm-hmm.
It's more you're going to have those products delivered to your property, and in what ilk are they going to be delivered to your property?
Sorry, and do you mean in what kind of quantities?
Yeah, are you going to have a large truck coming?
Oh, no. So any deliveries that will be made won't be by heavy goods vehicles. There'll be normal deliveries, deliveries that would be, you know, kind of small enough that if I wasn't here, they'd be able to leave them in my porch. You know, no different from a normal kind of delivery van, really.
Okay, and my subsequent question is, have you had a full fire safety, obviously because you'll be storing alcohol, so have you had a fire safety report done on your property, and most importantly the building where you'll be storing the product?
So I was in contact with the fire department, the Watford Fire Department, who have actually sent me an email saying that they approved of the outbuilding. They haven't physically come to do a fire assessment, but they've said that it would be okay in this instant for me to do one myself. So I have printed out and gone through a fire safety checklist myself to make sure that the building kind of complies to all the regulations from the fire department.
And do you have fire extinguishers?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I have a fire extinguisher in there, and I have fire alarm as well.
That's great. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Amanda. Aga, I can't see your hand, but I wanted to check whether you have any questions for the applicant.
Thank you, Chair. Actually, I raised my hand. Thank you for checking up. Chair, I have a few questions. So would you like me to ask questions one by one, or shall I say them all? And Sorrel will reply when she, as a one go, basically.
I think if you take them one by one, Aga, because then you can ask any clarifications as you go.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning. I have a few questions just for better understanding. Firstly, if you could, Sorrel, give us a bit background information and the reason why you decided to set up the business. I will be really grateful.
Sure, I can do that. So initially I started this business like a few months ago, and I actually launched Sorrelina as an immersive and interactive cocktail experience which showcased molecular mixology. So it combined my love of science, nature and cocktails, and it was meant to take place at small private dining events at a client's home or an intimate venue. But obviously, because of what's happened with COVID, all the bookings that I had for potential events for this year had to be cancelled. And obviously, because my initial business plan was completely client-based, where I would be at the venue or with the client, it meant that I couldn't obviously carry out the work that I intended to. So I came up with the idea of the cocktail kit in order to, I guess, keep the business alive and stop it from going under, because I have obviously set up this business myself and I've plugged a lot of savings and investment into it. And obviously, you know, at the beginning of the year, I thought I would have all these events where I would be able to kind of do all these lovely molecular mixology kind of immersive cocktail experience at my client's house. And now that obviously was put to a halt. So it was something that I came up with so that I could obviously generate a source of income for myself, and also just to keep my business alive, and I guess a way to give my clients that luxury kind of cocktail experience in the comfort of their own home at the moment. So yeah, so that's why I started the kits.
Thank you very much. It's very helpful. Is it all right, Chair, if I carry on with my second question?
Certainly, go for it, Aga.
Thank you. You explained what will be the objections, and I just wanted to have better understanding the processing order. And you mentioned a couple of times about I made a note, proof of ID. In terms of processing order, how it will be, and if a client make orders through courier, how they will checked, or it will be your side, and if that, how you will be checking that the people who are making the order are older enough to have consumption alcohol?
Sure. So obviously
So one is the obviously processing order, excuse me, and which coming to the proof of ID.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll just write that down so I remember. Yeah. So processing the order, normally the client would contact me online, and I guess, to be honest, most of it will be through Instagram on my website. So when I'm first in contact with them, the first thing I obviously would ask, is, are you above 18, or is the recipient above 18? And I would process the order. So I have a log of, name, address, the delivery address. Obviously, they'll give me their age. And normally, if I was to, as I don't know if I mentioned previously, but I'll start sending out orders via courier. I think once it takes off. Initially, it will probably be me delivering locally to start off, just to see the momentum and the traction of the business. And also, like I said, that gives me a way to obviously check that the person is who they say they are, the recipient is over 18, challenge 25 policy. So if I got to the client or to the address and I believed that the person was not over 18, I wouldn't make the sale. I would say to them, sorry, but I can't leave this with you. If you can't give me proof of identification, then I can't make the sale. I would obviously then make a record of that, so that I have that kept on record. And then I did discuss with someone at the council already, I can't remember who it was, via email, about the training that I would give to the couriers when I start using them. Obviously, I would assume that I would have a courier maybe taking out cocktail kits maybe once a week to start with. And I did mention that I would hopefully expect the same courier to turn up every week to take my deliveries. And I would give that courier a brief training on obviously checking that the person is who they say they are, that the order has been placed and obviously given to the right person. And if they can't produce the correct identification when the delivery is made, that the courier does not give the kit to the person, and then obviously makes a record of that sale. And then notifies me of that straight away.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Aga. And is that your questions complete?
Yes, for now.
In that case, I'll ask any questions I've got. I think actually we've covered a lot of the things I wanted to hear about. The only further clarification I wanted to ask was about, you mentioned that this sort of has knocked your plans off course, the COVID pandemic, and you've moved to more of a mail order model for the business. Is that something that you see changing back again as we come out of lockdown, or is this kind of now the permanent business model that you want it to be a mail order? And I just wanted to also to clarify that, and I think I understand this, but your thinking here is that this is primarily a mail order delivery business, and the collection of alcohol from your premises is a very small element of your plans. Is that, am I correct in thinking that?
Yeah, you are definitely correct. Like I said before, just as much as the residents have obviously objected to certain things in terms of picking up and traffic, I myself am a resident of this road, and I don't want to have extra parking issues or traffic concerns or safety issues regarding customers coming to pick them up. And at the end of the day, it is the place where I live as well. So I essentially don't want people coming here. It's only if there's a reason why I can't post it out to them or get it delivered to them that they would be coming to pick up. But just to clarify, that would be very minimal. And in terms of the business, yes. So I guess, to be honest, it would be dependent on how much traction and how successful this would be. If it is something that takes off and becomes really popular, then for sure I would love to kind of keep it going. And in that instance, obviously, you know, what I'm planning to do right now is feasible to be doing it from the outhouse here. And if it gained traction and it became quite popular, obviously looking into getting some kind of unit or storage facility would then be something that I look at, because, you know, if it did expand, I wouldn't be able to kind of keep up with it and store everything from here, dependent on the numbers. So it's definitely something that I would love to kind of keep going if it gained popularity. But it by no means does it mean that once kind of COVID is over and we're allowed to kind of get back out there to work, I do want to carry on with the events as well, and have this maybe ticking over in the background as something I could then offer my clients at the end of their event. You know, you can buy the cocktail kits as well. Because first and foremost, I'm a scientist. So for me, like, doing all the interactive and the immersive stuff with my clients at their house is actually like the part of the business that I really do enjoy. And that's why I've developed the kit, so that I could kind of give that feel to my clients as best as I can right now in the situation that we're in. But yeah, to answer your question, I would love to have this be successful and to kind of take off and have it as something that I could keep, I guess, alongside the events as well.
Understood.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. So that concludes my questions, to be honest. Austin,
can I just ask another question, please?
You can go for it.
Thank you, Chair. Sorrel, obviously you've done your marketing and you're checking out of your business. Has there been sort of a huge uptake of you know, what's your projected profit, or, you know, how many kits are you thinking that you're going to be dealing with on maybe a weekly basis?
On a weekly basis, I guess, to start with, I can't really say, to be honest, because I'm not actually sure yet. But I do think they will be well received, if I'm honest, because I've shared the idea with friends and family, and I've made up a few trial kits and given them to like, you know, my cousins and my aunts and a few of my best friends, and they've really loved the whole idea and the branding and the concept of it. So I'm hoping that it would get good traction. It wouldn't be anything that I wouldn't be able to handle, because I don't think that I'd be getting, you know, orders of, say, hundreds in the first week. But, you know, like I said, if it ever got to that stage where, you know, I was getting hundreds or thousands of order in a week, then that would be when I would, you know, obviously look to kind of set this up somewhere else, you know, in a storage facility. I may need to hire then a member of staff to help me. So I guess I can't answer your question surely in terms of, I have no idea of the predicted numbers, but I can definitely say that it would be something that I would obviously be able to handle. And, you know, making up the cocktail kits isn't too taxing in that it is kind of just putting components together. But yeah, I do hope to have quite a good response from it. I don't know if that answers your question very well. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So let me just clarify to get this clear.
Sure.
So you haven't had, this is all very new.
Yeah.
And obviously you have to get the components into place, like a licensing application, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So you don't really know how well or not so well this will take off.
Well, in terms of the business in general, I mean, I only launched Sorrelina a few months ago, and since I've launched, I've been able to collaborate with a MasterChef semi-finalist, and I've actually carried out 2 trial events, which were at, I don't know if you know the body coach, Joe Wicks. I did a trial event for him, and then a former England football captain as well. So in terms of the business, it's actually already been really well received in terms of the event side of it, which is obviously why I was obviously very disappointed about the recent the current situation with COVID, and why I felt it was really important to kind of keep my brand alive, because those are the kind of target clients that I'm aiming for. And so I thought, at least if I could offer a cocktail kit whilst we're in the midst of COVID, that it would kind of keep my name out there, and obviously keep my business alive from going under. So in terms of the event side, yeah, it's been extremely well received. I've had a lot of traction on it, and a lot of Instagram kind of followers, and a lot of great feedback, and a lot of, obviously, like I said, I did have a lot of bookings for summer 2020 in terms of the events. So I guess I have no doubt that the cocktail kits will be popular. I just can't say how popular I think they'll be in terms of sales right now, because I just don't know. But from what I've got from feedback from people that I've given kind of free kits to, they've been really, really well received.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Amanda. Just before I move on, I think I'm not seeing hands so clearly, so I just wanted to check, Aga, that you don't have your hand up and that you don't have any more questions.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to clarify something, and forgive me if I missed that information based off the police condition and the conversation which you, Sorrel, had with police. It was any indication regards monitoring the conditions set up by police, and if yes, how often the agreement saying they will be not really checking up on you, but just basically make sure that everything is correct according to the law.
Sure. I mean, if I'm completely honest with you, the police didn't actually say like if and when or how often they would be checking up on whether I'd be following the conditions. So it might be a case where I would be happy to maybe, present every 3 months, the proof of my sales, and any kind of identification that I may need to, or reporting the fact that I've not been able to make a sale because someone hasn't been able to show their identification. Again, in terms of, clients coming to pick up as well, that was a condition. I would always log. I have my own kind of log that I keep of all sales and the person and their address, whether they're coming to pick it up or whether it's going to be delivered. So I guess whilst the police haven't necessarily given me timescales of when they would be checking up or monitoring it, whether I'm following the conditions, I would be more than happy to do it myself in terms of updating them every 3 months, or whether it be every 2 months or 3 months or every month, in any way that they would kind of need. I'm open to doing that.
Thank you very much for your answer.
You're welcome.
And thank you, Chair. I don't have more questions.
Thank you, Aga, and thanks, Amanda. In that case, Austin, do you have any questions for Sorrel?
Thank you, Chair. I do. Before moving on to the questions, I do just have some feedback on some of the bits that were just mentioned.
Right.
Just to clarify. First off, Sorrel mentioned that she discussed with someone at the council about training the courier. That was my colleague Paminda, who was looking at the application on behalf of the licensing authority as a responsible authority.
Yeah, that's correct, Paminda.
So I just wanted to clarify that point. In regards to Councillor Dyken's comments, Yes, the police haven't specifically mentioned sort of timescales for keeping documents, but obviously we would expect responsible businesses and responsible business owners to keep documentation for themselves and to provide them upon request to the police or the licensing authority. It may be needed that in some cases, in some premises, the condition requires documentation to be provided, but that would usually be upon a risk assessment of the premises and the nature of the premises and exactly how often that involvement was needed. So, for example, it may be needed more for a town centre bar that's open late at night, but not necessarily for an off license in a quiet suburban street. So, I just wanted to clarify that yes, while we do have some conditions and some premises out there with conditions requiring documentation to be provided, obviously each application needs to be considered on its own merits, and we can't have standard conditions. So I just wanted to comment on that. I hope that's okay.
That's fine, Austin. Thanks.
Thank you, Austin.
As for questions for Sorrel, obviously we've had the photograph of your sample kits circulated to all members. I know that in my discussions with the objectors, they've mentioned concerns that you would be able to sell any alcohol. So perhaps you'd just like to go into detail about the amount of alcohol or how much of your kit it contains alcohol, just for the benefit of members.
Yep, sure. So the kit will consist of a small box that would fit through the letterbox. I'm sure most of you have seen the photos. So the bottles that are in the kits are 50mm bottles. So that would equivalent to just under like a double shot of alcohol. So you would get 2 50ml bottles of a spirit, and that would be rum, vodka, gin, tequila, whiskey, bourbon, stuff like that. You'd get 1 50ml bottle of syrup, and you would get 2 garnishes and an instruction kit telling you how to mix everything. So the cocktail kit would serve 2 people, 1 large cocktail each. So obviously the 2 50ml bottles would be 1 cocktail. So you'd get 2. And that's it really. That's the basis of the kits.
Thank you. Chair, I note that Amanda has raised her hand.
Go ahead, Amanda.
Yeah, I'm a little bit confused because one minute you're saying that your couriers will not hand over the box without checking identification, and then you've just said that it will fit through the letterbox.
Oh, that would
clarify how you're going to sort that out.
So obviously any ones that I would be posting, I will be checking, I would be asking, people to send me their identification and checking their identification before any kind of postal sales are made. Obviously delivering to the address that the person gives me, that corresponds to the address on the license, to make sure that they are the right person. And in terms of courier, again, like I said, I'd be giving them the training and advising that, the kit should be sent out to this person of this name, and to only kind of hand it over to this person. And if it's not the correct person, or they can't produce their photo identification, then to obviously not give them the kit and record that sale, and then let me know.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Amanda. Austin, did you have any further questions?
Yes, I do. Obviously, it's been mentioned or it's been asked to give an idea of how popular or successful the operation would be, and how many people would like to come to the premises. I know I mentioned at the beginning that obviously planning and licensing are separate regimes, but I do happen to know that Sorrel did have a chat with a planning enforcement officer. So I would ask Sorrel now if she'd like to relate to the committee what that discussion was about.
You referring to my kind of chat with Parminder?
No, with Stephanie Waldron.
Oh, Stephanie Waldron. Was that just referring to how I wouldn't require planning permission because there's not any kind of manufacturing of stuff going on? That it's obviously just kind of making up the kits and storing of the kits on the premises and then sending them out.
Yes, but that conversation also revolved around how many people were expected at the premises.
Yeah, so obviously, again, like I've mentioned, that it will be minimal people that will be coming to the premises. I myself don't really want people to kind of be picking up any cocktail kits. I know, obviously, in my application, it may have sounded a little bit different because things have changed since then, but I have no intention really to kind of have. I couldn't even say if it would be every week that people would pick up kits, because I don't think it would even be that often. It will be literally minimal possible. I'm intending to kind of send them out mainly delivery myself, like I said, locally at first, and then planning to get a courier, and then depending how far, obviously if courier is not possible, then to have the option to be able to post them out. So initially it was a condition with the police that, or it wasn't necessarily a condition, it just wasn't stated by the police that I was able to post them out. So I did have a conversation with Joe a couple of weeks ago after I'd received the objections, and because they were mainly about reoccurring theme of parking and kind of I guess disturbance to the neighbours because of cars coming in and out and safety issues. I spoke to Joe and just said that if I was able to post out, it would then reduce dramatically, obviously, the number of people that would maybe want to pick up the kits. So obviously agreeing that with Joe means that now that hopefully I won't really have many people wanting to pick up kits at all. I want to keep that to the bare minimum, to be honest.
Okay, if that's all you have to say, Sorrel, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you.
I should just clarify. Joe refers to Joe Tompkins, who is our police licensing officer,
right,
for Watford. I think that's me done, Chair.
Marvellous. Chinedu, do you have any questions?
Yes, Chair. Sarah, I'd just like to clarify the age verification that you will be using for the online sales.
So on my website, I will be getting something up this week that will enable me to when you enter the website or you click on the website, you have to add in your date of birth. Because I don't actually have a website which enables you to kind of make a sale in terms of it's not something where you can click on a product and then add it to your cart and then make the payment and then it's shipped to you. Every sale at the moment will literally be done personally through me. So if anyone was to actually go on my website, there's no information on my website currently about my kits because I've not updated it since the end of last year. So sales won't necessarily be from my website. They'll be via my Instagram. And on my in my Instagram, it's noted that obviously it's 18 plus only. That's right on my homepage when you click on my Instagram. And anyone that would be that would want to purchase the kit would have to basically direct message me. So it would be quite personal, where they would, you know, ask me about what I offer, the prices, etc. And I would obviously advise them at that point that, you know, it's 18 plus only. I need to know your date of birth. I need to have proof of identification on delivery, etc. And if you can't present that, then, you know, you may not be given the kit, etc. So yeah, it will be quite personal in terms of nothing will be sent out to someone who hasn't spoken to me, if that makes sense, because as I mentioned, no sales will be through the website. They'll be mainly through my Instagram, and the only way to contact me for a kit would be to direct message me.
Sorry, then how would you, because somebody could easily give you a date of birth that isn't the right one, would you be seeking to look at what would you be seeking to look at to confirm that the age is actually the right age and pertains to the right person?
Of course. So most of the clients that I have anyway would, like I said, be in a specific age kind of bracket, like a mid-20s. But again, I would be asking them to send me a copy of their license or any kind of photo ID, which is classified as, you know, relevant. So the UV or holographic, with their name and address, and obviously informing them that, you know, the delivery has to be to that person of that same address. And if they don't match up, then I obviously wouldn't be able to make the sale. Or if they weren't able to present it upon delivery, then I wouldn't be able to make the sale. So I guess if they said, you know, I'm 25, and I said, okay, fine, I'm going to be delivering your kit to you. You will need to present your identification to me or the courier upon delivery. Then if they do, perfect, they'll be given the kit. If not, then the sale will be refused.
And sorry, one final thing. What about the ones that you're going to be posting out?
Posting out, again, that will be something that I would have to ask them to send me their photo identification first. Obviously, give me the name and the address, and make sure that their name and address matches up to the identification that they've given me.
Thank you, Cheryl. That's all from me, Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Janedu. Austin, I note your hand went up. Did you want to come in?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I did just want to come in. With regards to this may help members of the committee and Sinead as well with her points. What kind of payments will you be looking to accept, Sorrel?
Sorry, I just clicked the wrong button. Payments would be via, like, you know, online transfer. So transfer or cash in hand upon delivery. So I guess if I was making a delivery, I could potentially take cash from the client. Obviously, everything would be logged on my log sheet that I would be keeping. If they were to be delivered via post or courier, obviously, then those would all be transfer. The only time I would ever take a cash payment would be if I was delivering myself, because obviously it would be me and the cash would be going into my hand rather than the courier. But again, in the times right now, obviously no one's really dealing with cash. So to be honest, it will all be mainly like bank transfer.
And would that be sort of something like PayPal or just sort of pure backs transfers?
Just normal bank transfers. It could be via PayPal if the client wanted that. It's whatever's easiest for them. I have PayPal as well, so that could be an option. But it's all bank transfer into it would be a separate account. Business.
Yeah.
You may have figured out that where I was heading with that question was that obviously PayPal does say that you can't use its accounts unless you're over 18. And obviously, if you were looking to take card payments, credit cards are not given to anyone under the age of 18.
Oh, okay.
Whereas debit cards are available.
Okay, right. So that's a way then I could get around, obviously, the whole checking and proving that I'm sending out to over 18. So I'd be happy to then do it via PayPal if it was a way to kind of guarantee that every sale that I was making was to someone over 18.
Thanks.
That's me done. Sorry, Chair.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. Okay, so and then Chinadu has finished her questions, I believe. So that is now the point in the procedure where all parties are given the opportunity to briefly sum up their submissions. So at this point, Sorrel, what would you like to say in summing up?
I guess, to be honest, I think I've covered most of the things that I've wanted to say in terms of promoting the licensing objectives, and obviously just to reiterate on the point that Austin just made, that I'd be happy to take all payments via PayPal for the postal ones, just to kind of as an insurance to make sure that whoever's ordered that via postal order is over 18. So that's something I could definitely do. And I guess just to sum up, obviously, like I said before, this wasn't necessarily the kind of route that I thought the business would take. And obviously I've had to re-strategize everything because of COVID. So, you know, these kicks are, I guess, again, are aimed to just bring a little bit of cheer to my clients and, you know, allow them to kind of feel like they're having this luxury cocktail experience at home whilst we're not able to kind of frequent our favorite bars and restaurants at the moment. You know, they make really good gifts. They make really good kind of treat boxes. And just to let you know that I obviously have taken on board all the comments that have been raised like today from you guys, and also the concerns of the neighbours. Because whilst they are their concerns, they're also things that I've been thinking of myself. I don't want this business to bring any kind of negativity towards the area, or impact it in a negative way. Because like I've said to you guys many times, like I do live here, and I do live here with my parents. So I don't want anything that's going to cause any disruption to them, or to my neighbours, or to anyone, like, you know, kind of in the area. And so, you know, I happily talk to anyone who has any concerns. My details and my contact details are obviously on my Instagram or on my website, so I'd be happy if any of them had any questions and wanted to talk to me directly. I'd be happy to answer any questions that they have. And yeah, just hoping that this application, if granted, you know, it would really allow me to kind of keep my business alive in this unpredictable times, and also just to support the kind of local and small startup businesses in the area. So yeah, that's all I really have to say at the moment. Thank you.
Thanks, Coral. Chinadu, I saw your hand go up.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, Cyril. Just one last final clarification. Would you be prepared to accept PayPal as a condition?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, I'd be happy to. With that, would you mean in terms of obviously if I had postal orders, say someone in Wales wanted to have a kit, and you know, I'd be happy to kind of do that if it meant, you know, reassurance, and obviously for me as well, making sure that I'm not sending out anything to anyone underage. I'd be more than happy to have that as a condition, to pay via PayPal.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, guys. Okay, so I now need to ask all parties whether you're satisfied you've had the opportunity to ask and say everything you would like to. The applicant has the final say. Firstly, councillors, do you have any further questions you'd like to ask before we retire to make our decision?
No, Chair, thank you.
No, Chair. All answers are clear. Thank you.
Great. And so I invite you to make any further closing comments. Don't feel under pressure to do so. I think you've said it all really in your summing up.
Yeah, I have. So thank you.
No problem. Okay, so thank you very much, everybody. That concludes the evidence for the subcommittee to consider. We will now retire and consider our decision. We will not be announcing the decision today. It will be published within 5 working days and made available to all parties. Thank you all for attending.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.